Iowa is one of the leaders in wind energy, and it provides huge environmental, economic, and health benefits to our state. Despite the many positive benefits, the industry now faces challenges such as confusion about safe siting guidelines, as well as misinformation about health impacts. The EHSRC talked to local experts to set the record straight.
How we have seen the growth of wind energy to make electricity in Iowa began back in the 1980s when Governor Branstad signed a renewable portfolio standard, an RPS. We were the first state in the union to have an RPS, and that was the investor-owned utilities were mandated to buy up to 105 megawatts of wind. In 1992, President Bush signed the first production tax credit. So that was the policy that drove the industry. We're up to now 34% of the total generation in Iowa is wind.
Why is Iowa so good for wind energy? Because Iowa has wind. If you look at the wind maps for the U.S., the central U.S. from Texas all the way up to Nebraska and Iowa is where most of the wind is. So we have really gone in a big way on wind energy, and it's been great for jobs in the state, and it's been great at reducing the carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas that we're releasing from our energy generating sector.
Not only are we generating megawatts of wind, but we have seen the proliferation of the supply chain. And that's what's been really important for Iowa. A wind turbine has so many moving parts in it. So there are up to about 70 to 80 companies in Iowa that are a part of this supply chain.
Clean energy like solar and wind, renewable energy, is good for human health and for the environment. We can farm underneath wind turbines. They take about an acre of land out of cultivation. You can continue to farm all around them. In addition to that, the energy you produce from wind and solar is energy that we're not making from coal, especially coal. And coal is dangerous to human health and causes greenhouse gas emissions, which of course is the grand challenge for the 21st century. So both in terms of environmental health and human health, we're much better off with these renewable energy sources.
So we have noticed just in the last 3 years some opposition to wind energy. Since the early 80s until then, Iowa has been pretty proud and touting our investments in wind energy and our use of wind energy for electricity. But we started to notice some letters to the editor and some op-eds scattered around in different papers in Iowa where there was opposition to wind energy. When the opposition started to become more vocal and showing up and organizing, we noticed that some of the leaders of this organized effort, this grassroots effort to be anti-wind, the leader was a member of a national organization that is opposed to wind energy and renewable energy, and that there were some board members and some ties to the fossil fuel industry. So we believe that this is an effort that is organized nationally, and it is from the fossil fuel industry, and it has gotten into Iowa.
Recently in Iowa, we've been seeing more local groups forming around opposition to wind energy, bringing, frankly, bad information about the safety of wind energy, how well it works, whether it actually reduces greenhouse gas emissions, just really sowing a lot of doubt about wind energy. And one of the arguments they really use a lot is that it's actually a threat to people's health. And so when we have those kinds of questions, we go to the experts and we want to find out the facts. And that's one reason why the Iowa Environmental Council worked with the University of Iowa College of Public Health Environmental Health Science Research Center, as well as the Iowa Policy Project, to do a full review of the best evidence available related to wind turbines and health.
So David Osterberg and I were asked by the Iowa Environmental Council to do a study of wind energy and specifically look at the issue of noise and whether noise has adverse health effects, has been claimed by some people who are opposed to wind energy. And so we did a thorough evaluation of the literature that's been published in this area. We found several very authoritative reports that have been produced. And what those showed us is that there is some evidence that is sufficient causal evidence that wind turbine noise can cause annoyance. There was limited evidence for causal relationship between wind turbine noise and sleep disturbances. There was no evidence to support stress or other adverse health outcomes. And there was no evidence of a causal relationship between wind noise exposure and hearing loss. With regard to the annoyance, that was found that people who may be upset about wind energy for other reasons, such as disturbance of view sheds or somehow it's a change they don't like in the rural landscape, this could produce annoyance, and that it's not directly due to noise exposure.
There's no correlation of disease outcomes like cancer or heart disease or diabetes or any of the conjecture that we've heard, the things people like to point to. There's absolutely no evidence that wind turbines are related to disease outcomes in people.
Another important issue to ensure continued growth and accessibility of wind energy is the issue of siting and setbacks.
Setbacks are how far away from a wind turbine you should have houses or other occupied structures. And so it's important that we establish setbacks that are science-based and protective. We know that for a 2.3 megawatt wind turbine, the height of the tower plus the full extension of the blade is about 436 feet, and we should be about 1.5 times that distance to get a proper and safe setback. So that would suggest 660 feet.
So the siting in Iowa is done at the local level, at the county level, as far as any kind of setbacks or any other type of zoning issues. There are no statewide standards for wind energy. But last legislative session, one of the organized efforts of the anti-wind group did come to Des Moines, and they were proposing some really severe setbacks that would really have curtailed more wind development in Iowa. Now that bill did not get a subcommittee hearing and did not move, but just from the mere fact that bill was filed caused us some great concern. And so we were there at that subcommittee and spoke against that bill.
So people who want to learn more about the specifics of siting and the best practices, there is a document on our website, iaenvironment.org. When we're looking at an ordinance, there are basically 5 pieces that we recommend be included. One is setbacks from property lines and inhabited structures. We do recommend counties look at a decommissioning plan, so you can, up front know that the cost of removing the towers are going to be taken down at the end of their useful life. That cost is going to be covered at the end of the useful life of the turbines. So those are some of the biggest concerns we hear from counties: impacts to infrastructure, what's going to happen to the turbines when this is all over. And those are all things that are legitimate concerns, but that counties can really be proactive in addressing in these ordinances.
When we talk about how to regulate the energy sector, whether it's wind, solar, coal, or natural gas, the public needs to have a voice. The public should be involved. This is how we get good legislation and how people can feel confident that we're doing this in a safe and healthful manner that benefits everybody.
When you think about where can I impact government, where can I impact decisions, the local level is really where all of us have the most ability to impact what happens in the area around us. And so I would say, if you live in an area where there's discussion about wind turbines, or maybe you don't have wind yet, but you're interested in making sure that it's a possibility for development in your county, I would really encourage people to get to know their county supervisors, to let them know early on that they would like to see wind in the county, that they're supportive.
We think this is a great benefit for our state, not only economically with the supply chain, but environmentally with, wind energy. The fuel for wind is free, and it's wind. And there are no emissions with that. And that's why we like it.